And here another point is you need to have a spice room where you store also spices. It should be nicely ventilated. It should be dry, and it should be kept in a very clean, because you're spending a lot of money on spices, and you have to look after them.
Welcome to MeatsPad, a platform dedicated to sharing breakthrough knowledge that is accessible to the meats industry. These discussions help foster and improve communication and knowledge dissemination within the meat science community.
Hi, meat folks. This is Phil Bass with MeatsPad, and I'm flying solo today. Francisco Nahar is out with a much needed respite, taking a break, and that's okay because we have an amazing guest on. And of course, Francisco will be back with us again shortly. But today it's just going to be myself and an incredible meat processing, butcher background, everything in the meat industry. I'm very excited to share with everyone Karsten Schellhas. Karsten, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Phil. It's a pleasure to be here on that podcast, and I'm looking forward to talking to you.
Yeah, well, and so often we in the meat business, especially us native North Americans, we hold the German butcher in this near mythical gold standard. And I'm telling everyone right now, if you haven't met Karsten, do that. Try to reach out at some point, because this truly is the classic German butcher. That's where you came from. That's your background. Is that right?
Yeah, that's a very good point. A really great introduction. Thank you very much, Phil. Yes, I come from a long family who has been for 4 generations in the meat business. And I went through the traditional German apprenticeship system. As you mentioned, German takes their sausage really serious.
Yeah.
And that's why you still, as of today, you still go through a 3-year apprenticeship system where you learn everything. During that 3-year apprenticeship, which you will have with a master butcher who has a store, who makes sausages, who sells his meat in the store, you have a 3-year apprenticeship where you go 4 days to the butcher to learn your trade, and 1 day you go to school every week. After those 3 years, you do your journeyman certificate. In my case, I had to make some sausages. I had to debone a whole hog. I had to debone certain parts of a cattle. And then you get your journeyman certificate. And after that, you go 4 or 5 years on a quest. I went all over Europe. I worked in France, Switzerland, Germany, from smaller company to a little bit larger companies. And then you learn everything about the trade. And here, what is important is every 50, 60 miles in Germany or also in Europe, the sausages are changes. The way they make sausages, it's really incredible. And then you are allowed to have your master degree. You go for 6 months full-time school, and then you're allowed to have the master certification. And now, many years ago, they also have a PhD level where you go 2 years to a full-time school to learn everything in more detail.
Wow. So your vast experience just in the early parts of your career, it sounds like, exposed you to so many different parts of the meat business.
Yes,
and the art,
that is
especially.
Yeah, that is exactly true, especially during the apprenticeship. Everything is thrown onto you. You know, one day you're at the slaughterhouse, you're doing hogs, and then the next day you're deboning hogs, you're making liver sausages, you're making fresh sausages, and then the next day you're deboning cattle, you know. So I was quite lucky. I was at a place who did all that and who did a vast variety of different kind of sausages.
Yeah. Well, I've always thought it would be one of the most fantastic vacations to just travel the world and go to different butcher shops and learn the craft from so many others. And I'm not sure if my wife would go along with me on that trip or not. I would love to have her go with me, but as much as meat cutting is a family event within our family, I may have to do that trip solo, but I've had the next best thing, and that's to run into Karsten in a workshop a couple of years ago. And it got me thinking about some of the unique parts of, especially in the processed meats category, which is kind of where you spend a lot of your time.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the processed meats category. And that leads us to kind of the main discussion that I'd like to visit with you. I mean, we could spend days just learning more from you and talking about back and forth about the meat business. But there's a couple things that I'd love to ask specifically, especially for a lot of our listeners who are medium to small size processors. And one of the things that really stood out in one of those workshops that you put on is your emphasis on quality, on the quality of the meat as you're going through the process. You can have all the most amazing technology in the world, but if the meat quality is not there, it's not going to perform. Is that right?
You're absolutely right, Phil. That is one of the most important points you can have. And if we are talking especially about fresh sausages, here it starts already when the meat comes to your building, or if there are some people, there are more and more small butchers who are still slaughtering. This is critical. If the meat is, if the hog is stressed out before it goes into slaughtering, all hell breaks loose with PSE and all those things, and then you wonder why your sausage quality is not good. So here it starts already looking after the animal, looking after a good harvest process in order to receive an excellent quality. And when the meat comes into your building from other suppliers, here it is also critical that you check it. What is the temperature of the fresh meat? How old is it? This is very critical, especially for fresh sausages. As you know, you don't want meat which is high in pH value, for example. Yeah, because then, yes, you have a great color, but your shelf life wouldn't be so great. Yeah. And if we're talking now about the process of fresh sausages, we have to think, what do we want in fresh sausages? Here, we want a good particle definition. We want a good distribution of the fat and lean. We want a good distribution of non-meat ingredients. Maybe we add some bell pepper, we add some cheeses. They also need to be integrated very well. But the most important part is, especially for North America, is we want to minimize the protein extraction.
Yeah.
We want that loose bind in the product. So how can we achieve that? So first of all, you mentioned, Phil, the quality of the meat. We are talking lean meat and we're talking fat.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So here are a couple of things, especially when it comes to for fresh sausages. When it comes to fat, as you know, there are different kinds of fat. There's belly fat, there's a picnic fat, there's a back fat, things like that. And all is differentiated in saturated fat and unsaturated fats. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, and this, it all comes down to the chemical structure of that fat. So if I remember it correctly, saturated fat, one carbon atom has two hydrogen atoms, and that's why it is called saturated.
Yeah, it's covered all the way around with something. Yeah, no double bonds, right?
Yeah, double bonds, exactly. Yeah. So, but unsaturated fat doesn't have that, and therefore it's very soft, the soft belly fats, for example. From the ham, the soft fats, you should avoid to use those in your fresh sausages because it will create smear.
Okay.
Best,
and
yeah, go ahead.
That has a lot to do with its melting point, right?
Exactly.
So for the listeners out there who maybe aren't biochemists, think about these fats. If they're a saturated fat, they're very, very straight molecules. And the way I describe it in my classes, I have to think in very practical senses. I grew up in the construction business with a bunch of Italians who thought if you can cut wood, you can cut meat. But in that business, I would often, as a younger person, have to stack the old lumber that was coming off of a barn or a building, and so they could put new lumber on. Well, think about that. If anybody's ever had to stack lumber that has been bent, it doesn't stack well, and just a little bit of jiggling will cause all of that to fall apart. Well, heat is the jiggling of molecules, and if we have very nice straight fat molecules, they stack very, very nice. And that's our saturated fats. If we had unsaturated fats, there's more bends in those molecules, and just a little bit of jiggling, a little bit of heat will cause that to start to melt. And especially in the processing environment where you're going to have mechanical friction, you're going to create heat, right? And so
yes,
that and just to kind of help elucidate a little bit the importance that Karsten is saying about the types of fat, you got to use the right kind of fat for the right environment. So you mentioned
yes,
leg fat, ham fat.
yes.
So tell us more.
Yes, so a very good example, Phil. I really like that. So here, like I mentioned, if you have the fatty belly fat and you have ham fat, which is really soft, then you will try to avoid that because it creates smear in the sausage, and then your product will not look good. So best would be to use more fat from the picnic area. From back fat traditionally is used a lot for example, for salami production, because of the saturated fat content. But for fresh sausages, you have to make sure that you have fat what is not so soft. And I know you cannot avoid using soft parts because, as we know, in the real production, you not always have the perfect products available, but you have to be aware of it, what creates challenges and how you can minimize those challenges.
Yeah.
And the fat is important. Then lean meat quality, the age, 3 to 4 days after slaughtering for pork would be preferable. Has a nice pH, has a nice color. Here, what is also important, a little bit older animals. As we know, when it comes to sow meat, for example, 1 year old has a nice dark color, would absolutely look great in a sausage. And you can mix it with regular commercial pork, which is only 4 months old and does not have this great color. And those are then some examples. You have the good meat. Then the next step is spices, especially for fresh sausages. It's critical that you have high quality spices. Yeah. You probably know that, Phil. You get lots of offers from spice company with very good prices, and but sometimes it's not the right flavor.
Right. Yeah. Well, and tell us a little more about the spices, because if I recall, a lot of these will actually lose their flavor over time. Is that right?
Yes, that is a good point. That's why it is important that from the beginning you get high quality spices who have a good flavor and will last for a couple of weeks. And here it is important that if you receive the spices, then put it in a container where you can airtight seal it, so no flavors could evaporate over time. And make sure that if you take the spices with a plastic spoon or whatever you use, that this handle is not wet. Otherwise, you bring humidity to the spices, which will further deteriorate the spices. Another thing is, if you can, always make your own spice mixes.
Okay.
Meaning, mix your peppers, mix your paprikas and everything together, your ginger and mace for fresh sausages. Mix it yourself from high quality ingredients and then add it. Yes, it takes some time, but you have a better quality, and you can also play around with certain salt levels in the sausage. Whereas if you buy a ready-to-mix spice mix, then you're a little bit limited.
You may,
Both have the advantages, but I would prefer to use individually spices which you weigh up yourself and then add to the sausages.
You have a little bit more control over things then,
yes,
and you can
exactly.
observe the individual spices coming in. And it's kind of almost a quality assurance step.
Yes,
if you
exactly,
think about it, you can
exactly.
look at the particle definition and everything of just the spice itself.
Yeah.
So,
and here another point is you need to have a spice room where you store all those spices. It should be nicely ventilated. It should be dry, and it should be kept in a very clean, because you're spending a lot of money on spices, and you have to look after them.
Excellent points. Oh my gosh, this is exactly what our listeners need. You know, great tips, simple tips, but great tips that can just help to enhance their business and their thought process as they go about things, right?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask some additional questions on, you know, you're already mentioning some of the things beyond just the muscle. But how about casings? Tell us about the, you know, what should we be looking at as far as casing? And it's kind of customer dependent. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So traditionally, let's say North America, a fresh sausage is made in a 32-35 hog casing. Here, it is also critical that you have an excellent supplier of those hog casings. They come in hanks. A hank is 90 yards, around 90 yards, as far as I remember. And the most important thing is, we always buy the best quality, because you don't want to buy a quality where there's lots of holes in the casing. Then you have to stop during stuffing. Oh, there's a hole. Now I have to cut the casing. Now I have to squeeze out the sausage from the rest of the casing. All those things, we're trying to avoid that. Make sure top quality. And then the most important part is actually how you treat your casings before you start stuffing. So this all starts, if you have the hank, that you know roughly how much casings you need for the next day. So you have to remove that from the saturated brine where the casings are stored. You place them under cold running water and rinse it until it is salt free. You actually have to taste the water a little bit. Yeah, that is a good sign.
Right in there.
and feel if you can feel any or taste any salt, then it's not good. It needs to be watered a little bit more. So then those casings you put, for example, overnight in a VMAC buggy with water in it, so they just stay in there, and hydrate for the next day for production. So then the next day, 2 hours before production, you take it out there and you put it in warm water. But the water should not exceed 104 Fahrenheit.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That is very important.
And that very close to body temperature.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yep.
Body temperature.
Yep.
And then you take those casings and put them on the table, and then you flush them and you can put it on the horn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is when you do hangs, when you do the pre-tubed casings, then it is very similar. The difference is then also when you have the pre-tubed, you have to take it out of the net. Mm-hmm. You put it into a what's that called? A little white container with body warm water. You place it on your table and make sure that the container is as long as the casings, the tubed casings.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So then, like a traditional lugger.
Yes, exactly.
Tote. Yeah.
Like a traditional lugger, water temperature is critical. Then they body temperature, then they flow much better from the horn.
Yeah.
Also, what is critical, if you have tubed casings, that make sure that if you put them on the horn, you have to remove the plastic. You have to remove the plastic towards the stuffer.
Right.
Do not bend the horn. If you move the plastic casings toward yourself, then you bend the horn. That will create some other challenges if you have automatic stuffing lines.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, yeah, and that's a great segue into kind of one of my getting near the end of my list of questions is equipment management. And this is a great point you said. Even the how you apply casings to the sausage horn can ultimately affect the operation of some of this equipment. Yes. And I grew up more with just a hand crank. There's the linker was me and my grandmother, and that's kind of how we did things. But the reality is in most commercial operations now we have automated linkers. We have the vacuum stuffing systems that are out there. Tell us a little bit more about the kind of more modern equipment and rules of thumb on how to operate these things.
Yeah, no, that's really fun. And you're right. Normally we've seen it more in commercial equipment, but in the last 2 years, I've seen lots of medium-sized companies, smaller companies who invested in more sausage lines, actually, because of the challenges with labor and other things which in fact have a big impact on the industry. So here, in generally, when we're talking about fresh sausage, we all know traditionally we're doing grind into the stuffer, or we do grind mix and then into the stuffer, things like that. A little bit more modern ways. There are two ways actually, where you can go with your meat, with your fat, and here this is critical. You need a cold temperature for your production of fresh sausages. Everything below 32 is great. Around 30, that is the great temperature. Actually, coming out of the stuffer around 30 to 32 would be perfect. I know it's not easy to achieve that, but it has a lot of advantages food safety-wise. You know that less bacteria. You have a great particle definition. The sausage looks great. All those things have a big impact when the temperature is right. Now, when it comes of making those the fresh sausage, we go traditionally, we use a grinder. Then nowadays we're talking about inline grinder. So Now
directly integrated with the whole
yes.
system. Yeah,
So
that's incredible.
you grind the meat, you go in the mixer, you mix it 2-3 minutes with your spices, with your salt, with a little bit water, and then you come out of that mixer with a particle definition maybe of 12 millimeter, and then you go into a VMAX stuffer where you have inline grind. So this is absolutely crazy. You have to think about an inline grinder just as a little grinder with integrated into this stuffing machine.
Wow.
And here we go maybe through a 3-place setup, through a 5-piece setup, like in a regular grinder. 3-place setup is probably brie breaker, then a 3-wing or 6-wing knife, and then the final plate side of 6 millimeter, which is actually the size of the sausage sand coming out.
Okay.
The advantage of that is food safety again.
Mm-hmm.
It goes right away into the casing, the bloom of the sausage, the particle definition, and you get that really nice, loose, succulent bite of that fresh sausage, what everybody wants to achieve. This is actually what many, even smaller companies now looking for. This is one way. If you are a little bit bigger, then the best way to make fresh sausages is actually having a bowl cutter, and then going into inline grind. Here, the meat temperature, once again, around 28 would be great going into the bowl cutter. Then you mix everything, your salt, spices, until you have a particle definition of 12 or 14 millimeter. Now, what is critical here is that beside the temperature is that the advantage of a bowl cutter is that you have that big bowl, you have those knives turning, and in comparison with a grinder, they don't squeeze the product. There's no pressure on the product when it is in the bowl cutter. It will help you to create an even looser product, especially if you want to do burgers. Bowl cutter, inline grind is perfect solution. When we come to fresh sausage, again, we come out there 12 to 14 millimeter, then we go VMAX inline grind, we come out 6 millimeter, and it's also a quick process. Yeah, it's not a lot of handling, especially if you can unload automatically from the bowl cutter and going to the VMAX with automatic loading. And even smaller stuffers, VMAX stuffers, we can have a loader attached to it, and that will help you, and it will help your employees too. And this is something going through the inline grinding has proven in the last couple of years very successful. And I think we talked about through one of our seminars, Phil, about the different grinding systems there are. There's an enterprise system and there's an Unger system. And enterprise, no, we are not talking about Star Trek. Enterprise is a standard system in North America, and there's a feed screw with a spring, knife, and a grind plate. Works great, has been proven for many decades successful, but the disadvantage is it creates high pressure in the back of the grinding plate, and therefore you create purge.
I see.
And you don't want purge.
Right.
Because this would not be good for the quality of the fresh sausage.
So that high pressure is almost breaking more of the cells.
Yes, exactly.
More of that watery stuff.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's why the Unger system, what we use at VMAX, is a feed screw with different reducing plates. Yeah. So pre-breaker, knife, intermediate plate, knife, and final plate, for example. So therefore, we have less pressure and less cell damage.
Yeah.
Critical for sausages and burgers, fresh sausages and burgers.
That, you know, that full integration is absolutely fascinating, you know, and thinking of just the movement of, I mean, we've taken now mechanical engineering science and applied it to sausage making, which is
Yes.
absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
You know, and that, all of that will not only improve either way, either system will still make a very good sausage.
Yeah.
And it will help to speed the process along. We have to realize that labor is tough.
Yeah.
It's tough to get folks into the operations. And oftentimes we sit and we spend a lot of time focusing on efficiencies and speed. But something that did really stand out at one of your workshops is when we had some folks that were operating the sausage stuffer at the time, and they were still it wasn't necessarily hand stuffing, but you know, still we're operating the horn, and we're going way too fast.
Yes.
And something that really stood out is and we all have to keep this in mind, is sometimes fast is slow and slow is fast.
Yes.
And to just really focus on what is that objective, what is that final item that you're trying to get to. We're trying to get to an amazing meat product, and to operate the system at absolute full capacity, maybe that's not always the best for the end meat. Is that right?
Yeah, no, you are absolutely right, Phil. That is actually a great point. During apprenticeship, I was always told, if you work in the meat industry, if you want to go fast, go slow.
Yeah.
And that is actually your point, or what you just made, and especially for fresh sausage. And we know how it is in a real production, you know. Oh, the truck is waiting. We need 200 pounds more fresh sausage. No, you just fill it out very fast.
Right.
Yes, we can do that. Then we have a little bit smear. Then it goes to the supermarket. People won't buy it. It comes back.
Yeah.
So that is something what we have to be aware of. Temperature, technology, the whole processing environment is critical to make good sausages, especially fresh sausage, which have a short shelf life.
Mm-hmm.
Everything needs to be controlled there.
Yeah. We have to focus on the entirety of the system, and
Exactly.
like many things, if you focus on that final end product, think about what it is that we're trying to do. We're trying to satisfy a customer out there. And if they're not happy with that end product, it doesn't matter how fast you made it.
Exactly.
Right.
The end product needs to have the nice particle definition, needs to look great on the shelf, and then you will sell a lot of products, you know.
Yeah. Well,
that's very important.
I love all the conversation. I love all the great take-home messages. Monitor quality, incoming meat quality, fat types,
Yes.
You know, casing integrity, temperature. All these things are great take-home messages for our medium and small size processors, and even the big processors out there. Keep all this in mind, because it doesn't matter how big you are, you're still trying to make a product that is going to satisfy the customer. And so we have to just always keep that in mind.
Yeah, especially, you are absolutely right, Phil, and especially small and medium size company, especially in our times right now, they have lots of advantages.
Mm-hmm.
People looking for where is the meat coming from, who makes the product. And if you can tell a story about yourself, your company, how you make your products, and you have premium quality products, you will sell those products.
This is an absolutely great time in the meat business, because people are becoming that much more conscious of where their food comes from. And for those who are out there who are learning, you're getting a lot of business directed towards you. This is your chance. Make sure that what you're putting out there is the best, because that will continue to have those repeat sales. You can always sell something once, but it's, can we sell it again? And if it's high quality and it looks good and it's satisfying and good value,
Yeah,
there it is.
exactly.
Well, Karsten, this has been absolutely fantastic. I think we have a lot of information here for our listeners to digest. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. But thank you so much, as always. It's always great to learn from you, to visit with you, and hope to see you again soon.
Yes, thank you, Phil. It was an absolute pleasure to do that. And I always love to come to university, and maybe soon this year or next year, we can have another seminar there.
That'd be fantastic. I appreciate it. Thank you.
With that, we end this episode. Thank you a lot for listening. If you'd like to receive notifications on the new releases and the new episodes, please subscribe at www.MeatsPad.com. If you're a small and mid-sized meat processor and you have concerns or questions about a certain topic related to meat science and meat processing, please email us at info@meatspad.com. Thank you, and I'll see you the next time.